Hey, little biscuits and sun-dried tomatoes. Support for Medium Popcorn is brought to you by Manscaped, which is the best men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. I use the Lawnmower 4.0 with the wireless charging. That shit makes my balls run smooth. And y'all know how much I like talking about my balls and my dick. Because when I get the 5-star reviews and now I have Manscaped, everything's coming out branded, literally. But yeah, it helps me make sure that I'm refined. I'm clean shaven, looking like Terrence Howard in all the episodes of Empire. And so there's so many ways to enjoy Manscaped.
Guys, it's not just about us. You have 2 million men worldwide trust Manscaped. They trust their balls to Manscaped, and you can be a part of that 2 million too. I said, make it 2 million and one because you're a separate person. So we have an exclusive offer for you. You get 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code BUTTER20 at manscaped.com.
That's right. And I know we talked about the men using this stuff, but ladies, y'all can use it too. You know, you could have a little trim bush. We have a little trim bush. Everyone has bushes that are trimmed and nice and smooth. You don't worry about getting, stray hairs in your mouth because you know that your partner is clean shaved by Manscaped. Remember, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code BUTTER20 at manscaped.com.
Now, let me just throw this out here, Brandon. I remember the days when my balls were unshaved, right? I'm out there, got to do my thing. I'm using a normal trimmer. I got maybe I get myself a little nick. You don't want to show up to a girl's place and you got little nicks in your private regions. Manscaped, you get past all of that because it's there to protect your nuts. It's there to protect your nuts. That's what I love about it.
That's right. I can't say it enough. Get 20% off and free shipping worldwide with the code BUTTER20 at manscaped.com. It supports the show. It supports your health. It supports your hygiene, and it supports your sex life.
Mm-hmm.
Come and get some.
Get your balls smooth. BUTTER20.
Medium popcorn, we are two niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me, and Justin Brown for your movie needs. Medium popcorn, woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault. Woo-hoo.
Hey there, little biscuits and sun-dried tomatoes. It's a bonus episode of Medium Popcorn, which means you should definitely go to Patreon, patreon.com/Medium Popcorn, subscribe so you can show your appreciation for this bonus content. But joining me to talk about King Richard is the lovely Tatiana.
Hello. Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. And then what did you think about the screening we got to see yesterday? We're talking about King Richard a week before it's released on HBO Max and theater simultaneously. It's another one of those dual release things that Warner Brothers is doing. But what were your thoughts on the press screening and stuff that we got to go to?
So one, the chairs were mighty comfortable. I love the velvet on the walls. Oh no, you're not.
Yeah, we went to a private it was like in Warner Media's building.
Yeah,
in like one of their screening rooms where they had like cameras where they videotape the audience and stuff. It was nice. I hadn't been to a press screening like that before.
Yeah, no, I was like, oh, this is how they get the footage for like those paranormal movies. I don't know what they were expecting our reactions to be. Yeah, but it was cool.
It was cool. I didn't. So initial thoughts. This is this movie is about Richard Williams, who is the father and coach of Serena and Venus Williams, and it's played by Will Smith. And yes, just to get ahead of it, apparently there is a little bit of controversy about his casting because Richard Williams, especially in the archival footage we saw at the end, very dark-skinned man, and Will Smith is, moderately light-skinned, by most standards. But I personally think that he did a phenomenal performance. But we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to agree to disagree on the performance.
Oh, okay.
But I would say the controversy, you want to make people historically accurate as much as possible, especially because this is based on a true story and it's not fiction.
Yeah.
But I think the standout actors of this movie are the girls who play Venus and Serena.
Yep. So Sanaya Sidney plays Venus, and Demi Singleton plays Serena Williams.
Yeah, they were just great, and I don't.
They seem to be playing their own stunts in the tennis matches and stuff.
Yeah,
based on the edits and everything.
It was so I just don't know enough about tennis. I know enough.
It's hard.
I know a lot about sports, right? And
have you ever played tennis? Like
I've
real
tried.
Tennis?
You know,
Yeah, I tried one time with my friend Brett back in Michigan, and we were both like, after like I think 20 minutes, we were like, yeah, this is for the birds. Like, we're not doing this.
it is like a full body mind thing.
You need to have a lot of endurance.
It's not terrible by any means, but I definitely, and again, like I don't follow the sport too much. I know enough, but I also think it has a lot to do with Venus and Serena, like as players, because I think that for everything this movie shows us, as far as like the pressures put on Venus to be a role model for not just Serena, but then also for like believing in herself, but coming from Compton, being the first African American to want to, do these things, and then trying to break all these records and whatnot. So I think that, like, when I think about this moment of time when it was happening in real time, I think, like, yeah, it was true, like Venus was a thing, and like a bunch of little girls of color were like, oh snap, let me try out tennis, because that's where my mom was like, hey, we have over here in Flushing Meadow Park, because I grew up in Queens, and there's the was it Arthur Ashe Stadium and stuff, and so they were like offering free tennis and whatnot, so it was around the same time.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think the movie did a really good job of talking about Richard and his wife, played by Arjun Ellis, Brandy, and she did a phenomenal job too. She was an actress from Lovecraft Country. That's where I first noticed her. I think she did a really good job playing the matriarch of the family, and they have 5 daughters together.
Yes.
And they're all incredibly smart. They're all incredibly talented in their own respective ways. But Richard's just really honed in on Venus and Serena, and I think just the dedication he showed to his family. Like, where it was like working late at night, then like getting very little sleep, and then like going to the courts, gathering balls and like equipment for them, because they didn't have much money, right? So he had to scavenge in any way.
Well, I don't think it's that they didn't have much money. I think that given where they were from, they were living comfortably, and 5 kids even now will break your bank.
Oh Jesus!
But I do think it's an affluent sport.
Yes.
You have to have the ties, you have to have the connections. It is an expensive sport,
and that's why he was trying to get like an elite coach to like support them, but they couldn't pay them. They're like, it's going to be a payoff in the long run.
Well, I mean, but also they're 2 black girls from Compton.
Yeah, which is like
so yeah. Besides that, it's who's going to believe that they're as good as they are if you don't get the buy-in from these elite coaches up, from the beginning.
Well, that's why I loved the scene where he crashes with Serena and Venus. He crashes the gentleman Paul Cohen, who's played by Tony Goldwyn from Ghost and Scandal. I keep hearing about. He's the president of Scandal. And he crashes his practice with pro tennis athletes, and he gets to convince him to let Venus and Serena just show their skills for like just a few minutes, and the guy's like blown away. He's like, "Oh shit, you taught them yourself?" He's like, "Yeah." And I thought that was like, that whole relationship was very indicative of, yes, Richard is a very devoted dad, but we talked about this last night. He's not without his flaws, right? Like, he's like kind of contradicting this coach that he fought so hard to get their expertise on, right? And then that's also where it begins to split Venus and Serena, because he's like, I can only coach one of them. Well,
in this space, Venus is the stronger. Is the stronger athlete, and so he sees that.
And she's also a little older too, so she's able to.
It's like a year though. They're not like terribly different.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because she's 41 when they talked about where her career's been, and Serena's 40. So yeah, you're right.
Oh, you can do math. I'm so proud of you, babe.
Never get married, y'all. Sometimes it's not worth the emotional strain to your confidence.
You love it.
Okay,
so there's lots of things that I think, and this is where because Venus and Serena are also like executive directors or producers on this, right? Will Smith and Jada Pinkett are also, and we know that Will and Jada are really not in the space of portraying Black families in a negative light. Like they've gone on record saying that and whatnot. So I just wonder, like, yes, Richard is a man and a human, and he's flawed, and I don't think that
we found out he had some other kids and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
I don't think he had bad intentions with Venus and Serena. However, there's a little bit of like this believing in your children because they're good versus it being you and your dream and what you
live
wanted.
Vicariously through your kids,
right? Because he talks about he already had the 3 older children, and he saw in, what was it, he said 1977 or something, how some tennis player got $40,000 to play for 4 days, and he was like, he told his wife, we need to have 2 more kids. And I'm just like, so it just makes me wonder, right? Like they happen to be one of the best athletes in tennis.
Yeah, and he planned out their whole lives.
But he planned out their whole lives before they were even conceived. So is this really what they wanted to do? Almost like a little bit of a Joe Jackson experience I was getting in some moments where it felt a little laced and being like, they're confident, like they're the best, I know what's better for them. And you see that where there's a point with Venus where he pulls her out of the juniors tournament because he's like, I want her to be a kid.
And
I don't want her to burn out.
That's not how this works.
And so, which I understand. I mean, we're not parents, but I understand. He was like looking out for her general well-being of being like, I don't want her to be 16 and burnt out.
Well, he's also seeing what's happening to the other young tennis players, like that girl that's was also coached by John Barenthal's character, who ends up having a breakdown. She gets arrested with drugs and stuff like that. And he's like, oh no.
He's talking about like wanting them to have an education because if tennis for some reason doesn't work out, they still need to have an education.
Important.
Which makes a lot of sense. And when you're a student athlete, that's like the whole point.
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen that ESPN, was it 40 for 40 or whatever the fuck, broke?
Isn't it 30 for 30?
Yeah, close enough. It's a numbers game.
You and numbers just don't do well.
But there's that broke episode where they talked about all the athletes that didn't manage their money well because they didn't know. And so they were just hemorrhaging money, and then they're broke and can barely afford rent in a 1-bedroom apartment, even though they were making millions of dollars a year and stuff.
Right. So
financial literacy.
So I do believe, right, like as their parents, they were doing what they could. But a lot of it was a more of like the Richard show because he was doing the interviews. Yes. He was the one showboating. He was like, he was, and maybe this is because it's Will Smith, and I saw a little bit of like Muhammad Ali coming through with the showboating in the interviews, and it's like I said, it's
he was charming.
I was like, it's one thing to believe in your daughters and know they're good and know they're the best because they are and they're talented. It was another thing though to kind of take over. And even when they weren't playing in the juniors and they weren't pro yet, he was still out there like doing interviews and promoting himself more than them. That's why the coach later on talks about like, this is the Richard show. This has nothing to do with Venus.
Yeah, Rick Mackey, played by John Barenthal. He has that same.
It's Macy.
Macy? I'm so bad with dumb names.
And we just saw this movie last night.
My brain don't work right. But yeah, John Barenthal gets mad at him because he just pulls the girls out of practice so they can go to Disney World, which, again, I get like he wants them to be kids, but yeah, communicate. This dude flew y'all out to Florida.
Yeah, he's
pays
supporting
for
your whole life.
I did love that scene where he's like, oh, that's a nice house. Who pays for that? And he's like, you better than that. You better than that. I was like, I'm surprised that you didn't like Will Smith's performance because I thought he was charming enough to sell like the lighthearted comedy parts. He was strong enough to be able to carry the really dramatic roles, but then there was a lot of layers to the things that he was doing, especially when he was monologuing about his life, right? When he talked about, I used to get beat up like all the time, like white people used to terrorize me and stuff like that. It's like no one ever cared about Richard Williams.
Well,
but
he
they're
talked
gonna care
about his
John.
dad, like
Yeah.
not like kind of abandoning him in times where
Well,
he was needed.
white adults were beating the shit out of him and stuff. Yeah.
That's a very specific example.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm trying not to, give it all away. Even though this is all based on a true story.
Yeah,
so
people
it's not,
go see it because there's a interesting thing with like these local game bangers. They're trying to, talk to Richard's daughter, and like that threw me for a loop. And the audience was like, "Oh shit!" Like during that scene.
So okay, so this is these are my things with Will Smith's performance, which is and this is where my ignorance on Richard Williams comes through, which is there are times where he was acting and it came off a little Tyler Perry-ish with the accent and the slowness and I don't know if maybe Richard is just slower cadence, a simpler man. He talks about being from the South.
That's what I had picked.
But you watch enough Tyler Perry, you see Tyler Perry in a lot of spaces. And I was getting that. And I was just like, and then like I said, it almost reminded me of Tropic Thunder and Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, no.
Where he's like the Australian playing to this guy, playing to that guy, playing to that guy, playing to that guy. And so like I said, I saw a little bit of like the Tyler Perry. Then I saw a little bit of like Muhammad Ali. Then I saw a little bit of like Pursuit of Happiness. And then like the lightheartedness and Richard is seemingly charming person, right? Yeah. So there were moments where I felt like we were laughing a little too much because it's not a comedy. And so I was like, oh, this is a little, and we know Will Smith has like a pretty good comedic timing. And so it was just all the things melting into one. Where I didn't feel like I was watching Richard Williams. Yeah. I was watching Will Smith play a character, play another character, and try and like glue them all together.
Okay. I'm going to disagree. I think that he did a really good job with this layered performance. It might be my favorite Will Smith performance, just because I did take it as he's a simple man. That doesn't mean he's not smart, but he just like, he struggles to articulate himself, and like people kind of get what he's trying to say, but it's like a very like country way of saying things. And I imagine that that's what Richard's really like, because I doubt Serena and Venus would like let their father be portrayed in a buffoonish way.
No, of course.
And so that's, for me, I was like, if they endorse this, right, if they endorse this portrayal, then I'm not going to discount the way that Will Smith is, saying his words and betraying his emotions and stuff. I'm just thinking about I think he did a really good job anchoring this whole movie. And again, I think maybe they could have gone a little bit more into like the deeper stuff with the other kids and like what was going on there. I think they were trying not to go too deep into like how flawed he is. Cause I was actually thinking about, I was like, oh, it'd be interesting if they did a movie on Tiger and his dad. But I know his dad was fucked up. Like his dad was not only cheating, but also I guess like abusive and like beating him and the mom and stuff like that. So it's like, you can't really do a uplifting drama on that.
Well, I mean,
unless he's the villain of the movie.
We literally have the like Jackson 5. And people love that. So
well, that's an epic VH1.
I'm just saying, like I think your argument in that logic is just a tiny bit flawed. Because who doesn't want to hear? That's literally an underdog story, right? Of like
underdog or underdog.
Underdog.
Okay, it sounded like you said dong, and I was like, T. This is a family friendly podcast.
Didn't you just?
Was that Alexa?
Yeah, I was just like, what is that? Don't you guys have ninjas spoiling movies in the title?
We do.
Oh, okay.
It's family friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody could be a ninja.
Okay.
Okay, but the movie as a whole, it is a little over 2 hours. It's like 2 hours and like 15 minutes or something like that. And I was like, this is long, but it doesn't luckily feel long.
Right. And I think it stops at the right place because from that point on, we kind of know what happens. It stops at Venus, like playing her first professional game and losing to the number one player in the world.
And the only reason why she loses because that fucking, and I didn't know this is a real thing with tennis. Like, that's how little I know about tennis. But like,
in
she
sports,
ices her out.
In sports in general, that's a thing.
Well, you could do a timeout and stuff like that to change the momentum. But I didn't know you could just take a break for tennis and be as long as you fucking want.
Well, I mean, if you got to drop a deuce, you got to drop a deuce. I'm not saying
if
it's
you're playing
right.
A really intense match, and you got to just I got to take.
I mean, people have nerves. You don't know. Sure. Like, I'm not trying to say it was okay because this was very intentional and strategic in the moment. But I mean, I'm
sure that tennis player in real life is like, I really had to pee. Like, it was not strategy. I'm sure, especially after this movie comes out, I would not be surprised if that tennis player says that was like her intention. She wasn't meaning to, because she's going to get some smoke on Black Twitter.
I mean,
once people see this, they're going to be like, who the fuck was this tennis player?
She caught smoke in real time.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, she was just mad. She was getting her ass beat by a 14-year-old.
How old was she? She was like 18, right?
I don't really know.
Yeah.
That was.
I think they were like,
we weren't focused on her. We were focused on Venus.
We were focused on these beautiful, talented Black girls.
And I think that one of the things I appreciated the most, right, is, and so I always have known the sisters to be Venus and Serena. Now, I'm not trying to say one's more important than the other.
Sure.
But I do think it matters in this space because we talk about Serena so much now in a modern time, and it almost feels like Venus is an afterthought, but Serena wouldn't be who she is without Venus sort of setting the stage for her. And so this movie focuses far more on Venus than it does Serena, and I think that that's fair. And I think it was the right approach to take. Like, yes, Serena's in it, but this is not the Serena Williams story.
Yes. It's about Venus. Well, it's technically about both of them and the whole family, but it does focus, especially the second half, on Venus.
Yeah.
And her and the work that she does. And, Will Smith has a really powerful scene with her where, she wants to do the professional match. He's hesitant because he's like, I don't want you to ever, he's like, I'm so scared. I don't want to end up abandoning you the way I got abandoned by my dad. So this is all about my fear. It's not about me not thinking you're ready.
Right.
And that was that for me, I almost got, started crying about it. I was like, I'm not going to fucking cry today. I'm not going to fucking cry in this movie. But because it's also especially back, it's already tough still I imagine as a Black parent trying to raise young black women to be successful and to believe in themselves, and for her to have so much talent and to be worried about not only the just general things that happen in life, but also the shit that's going to come down on her as the first Black girl to be doing this shit. He was talking about all these parents and these white people looking at us like they're the ones that should be arrested, the way that they're looking at us and harassing us. And I'm like, I can't imagine the fear.
That's not why he was saying they should have been arrested.
Well, he was saying because they were essentially being abusive to their kids.
Yeah.
And forcing them to play this crazy sport.
Well, the sport itself isn't crazy. It was just the expectations that are set on them, on the children. And that's why he pulled them out of the juniors, out of the juniors tournaments. Because he did not like what he was seeing, and when the coaches were basically telling them there's a formula to this and you don't get to do this without following this formula. Yeah. And I think that Richard was smart in the sense of understanding that he had something that no one else had. These girls had the raw talent and ability. They knew this sport. They were great, but they needed the extra oomph that he and his wife could not give them, because as much as
I love that the wife was coaching
as much,
Serena,
and
too.
so that's where I was like, as much as this is about Richard, because he's like the one we saw in the interviews and the one that was, just we see that, but we have a moment where the mom talks about like, you wouldn't have any of this without me. Like a lot of your ideas are actually my ideas. And she's like, so give me my flowers because this isn't all you.
Or the juice, as you often tell me.
Well, give me the juices like when I'm right. See, you just can't be taking our real life and throwing it in. They're not.
Well, I mean,
They're not. It's not comparable.
I mean, there's some elements that I was like, oh, that's like Tati and I.
Okay, and our 5 imaginary Afro-Latino kids.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, that was such a old black parent thing to do when he like left them at that corner store. He's like, oh, they want to be braggadocious. I see them brag on 3 miles on the walk home. She's like, you better go back and get my fucking kids. I was like, oh, this is such a black argument.
Well, remember, they're not cursing because they're Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I didn't notice that they didn't really swear, which is interesting.
yeah, because they're
even when they
Jehovah's
threatened the
Witnesses.
neighbor who like called CPS on them.
Yeah, because they're Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't understand.
That was crazy though when he told her, he was like, oh, what corner is your daughter working on? To the neighbor. I was like, damn.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it is a nice family-friendly movie, which we don't get a whole lot with outside of the cartoon realm, right? Yeah. So it's a nice, and it is a biopic of sorts, right? Across 3, mostly these 3 famous people that are recognizable in a modern age. But what I do find is that the motivation behind it, the movie is motivating, right? So I was like, man, if I had kids, I would totally be like, yeah, we're going to watch this together. And I think the biggest thing that I really took out is how much he really did not want the world. He was like, like the world is tough enough. He was like, and my girls need to know that they are the greatest and there's nothing wrong with that. Like they can be confident and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's the biggest thing I take away. And I don't want to rag on my parents. But sometimes your parents are the first people to give you the limitations you have in life, right? Like, are you sure you want to do that? Or it's okay if you mess up, just, this might not be your thing. Yeah. And so I just like seeing what that example is made me feel super comfortable and confident and in a space that I think, children of color don't often get, of being like, oh, you want to be a rocket scientist? You sure can. You want to be president? Absolutely. And so when I think about that and I'm just like, man, I had to like take a moment to reflect. And I was like, when did I have those moments in my life? And I couldn't really pinpoint them. And it made me a little bit sad. And I'm not upset with my life the way it is. It just makes me wonder like, wow, like your foundations, we know it matters, but it really does. Like your parents having your back and not only believing in you, but demonstrating that belief and that confidence to everyone else around them. Mm-hmm. And that was one thing I took away, which is like, oh, not only did Richard not speak about his children in a despairing way, he didn't allow other people to do it. Yeah,
like when the journalists are like pushing Venus and he's like, she already gave you the answer. Like she's a kid. Like stop trying to get more out of her. Like let her
or
be.
No, like she's too confident and you're like, why are you so confident? He was like, yeah, and I think that's the most famous sort of video we've seen across, the years, right? Of him being like, she's already answered your question, but you keep asking her why she thinks she's that good. Because she thinks she's that good. Like that's good enough. And it's right. And so, I just like I said, when I think back at those moments and I'm like, I'm good at what I'm good at. And I was like, I just wonder for me, like, if I maybe had like parents that were like Richard, would I have been great at something else?
Yeah, I mean, that was like that was a huge turning point in this movie where Richard starts letting Venus and Serena because Serena starts doing the juniors on her own. He starts letting them make decisions about their careers because his wife just says it's all about you, and he's like, you know what, it's not. And so when the Nike guy comes to endorse them,
presents Venus with a contract.
Yeah, and he's like, Venus, what do you think? Because the guy's only talking to Richard. He's like, Venus, what do you think? And she's like. And it's like, yeah, you don't want to go for it. John Bernthal loses his shit. That poor dude, he was giving the ring the whole time.
I really liked his performance.
He was great.
He was awesome. It
was something different. Like we haven't seen him do something like this.
Yeah, he's usually very like broody and like.
You can't protect him, Rick.
Yeah, but it was good. And even though there was parts where it was stressful, he was like very lighthearted and.
Well, he believed in the girls.
Yeah.
I mean, not only did they believe in their talent, but he also believed they're going to be superstars. So I'm going to make money. They're going to be great. Like everyone wins.
Well,
like, it's worth the investment.
I mean, but that's the business though, right? Is like I charge you $0 right now, but whatever he
gets 15%, right?
15% of whatever they get in the future.
Yeah.
Which,
especially now, yeah. I mean, I'm sure this guy in real life retired after that.
I mean, what I do appreciate was the fact that, like Richard was a character, but also, when they show you the videos he was making for Venus and Serena and the pamphlets.
I can't believe you didn't think that was so charming. Like for me, I was like, this is why Will Smith's a movie star. Because he's selling it and he's so likable, even though he's getting a bunch of no's. You can just tell he's still determined. Yes, he does lose. He gets some bumps in the road where he loses hope a little bit. But I'm like, he just has that.
And that's the pursuit of happiness, though.
It's similar roles, but that doesn't mean that he didn't do a good job.
I didn't say he didn't do a good job. I just don't think it was the most amazing thing since sliced bread the way you're portraying it.
I'm not saying it's the most amazing thing since sliced bread. I am saying though that this is my favorite movie of the year thus far.
And it can be your favorite.
I mean, I think it's just incredible that we're getting so many amazing performances from black actors this year, especially given the shit that we've gone through with this stuff the past 2 years, I would say, especially the fact that from what I'm hearing, Mahershala Ali is also really in the sci-fi movie that's about to come out. So it could be 3-way between him, Will Smith, and Denzel. That's incredible to me.
I mean, I think that if the pandemic did anything, right, and for entertainment, it was make the playing field more level.
Fair.
Right? Because now if you're, you could have a smaller budget film, right? And it's on a platform that's easily accessible to whoever's subscribed to it. And as your favorite joke, right? All you need is one HBO Go password and everybody wins. So I will say that, aside from anything.
I haven't done that bit in a long time.
I know. It's one of my favorites. But there is no HBO Go anymore, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, it's HBO Max, and then this shit's I don't even know if the joke will work anymore because one, it's about Game of Thrones, and that's outdated, so I have to change the show and then figure it out.
Okay, well,
I know what you're saying,
but I just think that you're right, between this, The Harder They Fall.
You didn't see Tragedy Macbeth, which isn't really a black film, but it's anchored by Denzel, so.
I think that I mean outside of black cinema, Shang-Chi was really good.
Mm-hmm. Except for the whole Ben Kingsley thing, but I can get over that.
Okay. So, I just think that when I think about movies that came out this year, they're not they don't have white leads.
Yeah, even In the Heights, which I know has the whole colorism thing, I still love that movie.
Yeah.
I still love that music. Yeah, I mean, we still got Encanto that's coming out, the Disney movie. There's a few things that are still on the docket. I'm not looking forward to the Ricardos. Being the
Ricardos. Yeah, I'm not
because you're a huge Lucy fan, so we probably have to review that movie.
I love Lucy. I mean, I just binged the whole I Love Lucy series in the middle of the pandemic for shits and giggles.
Yeah. But did you hear about Aaron Sorkin doing that interview where he talked about it doesn't matter that Javier Bardem
Cuban or he's Spanish.
He's he's Spanish, so and
he's
daughter was also
we had a Latino caster casting person, and she's the one who cast him.
Such a fucking Matt Damon Project Greenlight thing to say.
Yeah.
But it all worked out. We had the right people that made the decisions. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, he doesn't. It's okay if he doesn't want to give a fuck. Yep. I'm just like in the space though of this could have been a great space to have someone who's a little less, little lesser of a name or breakout. Yep. This could have been someone else's breakout moment because Javier Bardem is just too, and I don't even know how I want to like explain this. Javier Bardem, one, does not look anything remotely close to Ricky Ricardo, right? Yep. Two, he's actually physically too big. Like just in general, language aside, yeah. he's like almost like a giant compared to what Ricky Ricardo was. So then Nicole Kidman is also a giant compared to Lucy, and it's just like for me aesthetically, and I've only seen the trailer that they released, I'm just like meh.
Someone on film Twitter was saying how Aaron Sorkin essentially casted two of the most expressionless actors he could find to play those roles. Because
Nicole Kidman's got a ton of fillers, so I know, her face is just
exactly. They're both very stiff, but they need to play the most expressionless people that I've ever been.
Yeah, because it's very slapstick, and
but.
We'll get there when we get there.
We'll see what happens.
So, King Richard.
Yeah. The screenplay was written by Zach Balin, and the script was apparently on the Blacklist, which is this infamous list of unproduced scripts in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's where, because usually when scripts end up on the Blacklist, that's when they didn't get picked up and developed. And this was directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green, who, good comeback, because he directed this movie called Joe Bell, which stars Mark Wahlberg. And it's an important story. It's about this father that goes on this cross-country walk in support of his gay son that killed himself because of harassment and bullying. But it's Mark Wahlberg, and so it's incredibly it's just Mark Wahlberg being Mark Wahlberg, even though he's trying to be dramatic. It did not work for me, and so I'm glad he was able to rebound with this. Yeah, let's go ahead and rate this thing. Tatiana, we rate movies on bags of popcorn, small, medium, large, XL for the exceptional. But if a movie does not deserve a bag of popcorn, we put it into the dog shit pile where we pile piles and piles of dog shit on it. So we watch King Richard. That's out on November 19th on HBO Max and in theaters, which I would recommend that you go see it if you can. What say you?
It definitely gets a large. It is actually... I'll give it an extra large. Okay. It's not my favorite movie of the year, but it's definitely getting an extra large. Yeah. Because I would see it again. Like I was just thinking after I said large, I was like, no, I would watch it again when it comes out next week. Mm-hmm. So I'm not mad at that. And I just thought the girls playing Venus and Serena. I mean, like I said, I don't know much about the sports choreography. Because they have to follow these matches, yep. The pro match pretty much to a T. And because it's all on video. So whether they were doing their own stunts or not, when the focus shifted from Richard to them, I thought they did a phenomenal job. So I think as a whole unit, the acting was solid. The stunts, as you will, right? The athletic stunts were I said, I tried play tennis as a kid and I was like, nope, not for me. So I get it. So if whether they're doing it or someone else did it, kudos. I felt in the moment, even though we know Venus loses that first pro match, you're still it was
you see all the kids that
it was breathtaking. You were in the match with them, and that's what the great thing about movies, and so it had me in that pocket of snapping when the snaps were good, and getting mad with them, when CPS is called and all that stuff, and then just holding my breath when the matches are going. So definitely an XL.
Mm. I agree. I'm giving it an XL as well. This is probably one of my favorite sports films. That's more about family and I really, really enjoyed this. I enjoyed all the performances. I do think that Will Smith and likely Arjun Ellis will get nominated. Maybe even John Bernthal, Best Supporting Actor. I think that also the script will probably get nominated just because it's a lot of story to fit into 140 something pages. That's a lot. So again, kudos to the writer.
And that Beyonce song at the end. It's super motivational.
Fuck. Like she's going to go hard. She really wants this Oscar. She really wants an Oscar.
Yeah, I mean,
I get it, Beyonce.
But I mean, I love black centric Beyonce. Mm-hmm. I love it. So
yeah, but this is definitely my favorite movie of the year so far. It's The Harder They Fall is right under there, though. I don't want anyone to think that, like, oh man, like you're discounting that. Like, no, that's
but they're two different movies,
exactly,
like, and so if they can both.
The Harder They Fall is just a really good, entertaining like movie. This is an inspiring movie. Like for me, I just felt so much love, and I just like Black Girl Magic. Like as I've gotten to know an incredible Black woman personally, I'm just like, this is such an important story for like all young women of color to see, just because it's like you are powerful, you are great, you come from amazing legacies, and don't forget that. And that's what I really loved about what the parents were doing, because it was like empowering them to be them best selves and not ever like let anyone discount you or make you feel bad. Like when Venus lost and she's sad, they're like, do you realize what you just did? Like you went toe to toe with the best player in the world and you had her shook. Like, don't ever, ever feel down on yourself. And I hope that I'm a parent that is able to inspire my child like that.
Ooh, all right. We're going to end it right there then.
Yep. Tatiana, how can people follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Boricua Collins. How can they follow you, Brandon?
Y'all can follow me at American Collins, AmericanCollins.com. If you were in New York City, I'm going to be on Doug Loves Movies next week. So go to DougLovesMovies.com to get tickets at the Gramercy Theater. And follow the show at Medium P Podcast on all social media platforms, MediumPopcorn.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel because we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Help us meet that goal. Additionally, if you want to support the show financially, again, Patreon.com/MediumPopcorn. You get hundreds and hundreds of bonus episodes of content. Right now, we're on our way to the 500th episode on the public channels. And we've been doing Patreon for several years. So you can only imagine how much bonus content is on Patreon.
Oh, the shenanigans that are behind
Patreon.
the Patreon.
Patreon has like a lot of shady shit that we can't release to the public, so you know it's wild if we're like, oh, this is just for Patriots. So definitely be sure to sign up.
And it's holiday season. Put a friend on, a family member. Share it on your socials. But at the end of the day, we're just sharing what we love with y'all, and we hope you share the love right back.
Yeah, put the love all over your mouth and your ears. All right, y'all.
Your mouth.
Well, I'm hungry. Bye, y'all.
Popcorn. We are two niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me. And Justin Brown for your movie needs. Medium popcorn. Woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your